From zombies to werewolves to aliens? Today we're talking with the director that brought Seabrook to life and created one of the greatest franchises in Disney history.
I don't know that they haven't thought that there would be a Zombies 2.
Was that intentional?
It can't look like Bunked, and it can't look like Camp Rock, right? The script has no music in it and no lyrics and nothing.
Is that kind of a conscious link there? Am I reading too much into this?
I think it's like when you go to Disneyland and you see Mickey Mouse, the kids aren't like going, oh, I'm hugging the guy inside the Mickey Mouse suit, right? It's actually Mickey Mouse that they're hugging, you know?
That's like the best line. We joke like everything is possible through cheer.
Welcome to the Enchanted Ears podcast,
Where we discuss anything and everything Disney.
I'm Angela.
And I'm Joe, and on today's very special Halloween episode, what is more Halloween than zombies?
I can't think of one single thing.
Werewolves.
Yeah, werewolves are pretty vampires as well. Yeah,
We are bringing all of those things together in this very, very special magical episode. We are talking to the director of the Zombies franchise.
yes, we are.
This was extremely exciting. Just a little bit of quick backstory. First of all, if you've not seen any of the Zombies movies, just go watch them.
Yeah,
There's
and then,
4 of them. You
and
can
then
watch
listen
them
to
quickly.
this. Yep.
Yeah. We were planning a Halloween episode of let's watch some of the old Disney Halloween movies, and we could kind of rank them. We started with zombies. It's a newer one, but let's start with zombies. We heard it's good, and literally just binged all 4 of them in a weekend because we were like, this is phenomenal. We watched nothing else.
We watched the first one. No, we didn't watch. We watched one other movie, but we watched the first Zombies, and we were like we immediately rolled into the second one. We were so hooked that we couldn't just stop at one.
Yeah, and just got through them all, and we're like, this is phenomenal.
It reminded me of when I was a kid and I watched the Rush Hour movies, and then I was running around the house pretending that I could do karate. I don't
Is it
know.
like The Matrix? You watched karate and then you could do karate type stuff?
Yeah, I was so hyped because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a karate master. But in this I was
But you were not.
I was not. I was like, dude, I love these movies.
Yes.
I was so hyped from them. So yeah.
They are so good. So we saw this and we were like, okay, we have to do a full episode on zombies. Forget about watching all the other Halloween movies. We can maybe do that next year. Magically, I reached out to the director, Paul. I said, hey, we binge these movies. We love them. We love what you did. Thank you. Hey, by the way, would you like to come on their podcast? And he said yes. Somehow said yes. So we have this incredible interview going behind the scenes of maybe the greatest franchise in Disney Channel movie history.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that would fight us on this and be like, High School Musical, and I'd be like, no.
It's better.
It is better than High School Musical.
So with this very special episode, we are running a Zombies prize pack giveaway. So go over on our Instagram. It's going to run this week. We have a shirt. We kind of have a tote. Disney gift card. So if Zombies isn't 100% your thing, can still win a Disney gift card. Go on there for all the details. But the code word, so bonus entry for the code word, is cheerleader. Because if you watch Zombies, you know cheerleading is extremely
vital.
important.
It's
So,
very vital.
so go over to Instagram. We're at Enchanted Ears Podcast over there. But without further ado, here's the interview. We are very excited for our next guest. He has had an incredible career directing and producing dozens of TV shows and movies for Nickelodeon and Disney, including The Cheetah Girls, One World, Camp Rock 2, and the reason why we are talking to him today, the Zombies franchise. Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So before we get into all things zombies, do want to get a little bit more of your background. So if you could kind of talk us through how you got into directing, how you got into working with Disney.
I was a little bit of a lost soul, but when I was in high school, a girlfriend took me to see a musical, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? And it was like, the lights are going and and so I decided I needed to be in entertainment. So I became a theater major. And then after I graduated, it was just, I thought the prospect of, getting into theater was probably not going to happen. And there was more lucrative fields to mine. So I started as a runner. I got on a show called, there was Variety was very big at the time. And I was the script supervisor where I broke down music for the directors and so what they were to shoot. And then I got on this show, Kids Incorporated, which led to another show that same company was doing called The Secret World of Alex Mack, which was single camera.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I did that show. And then at the time, Disney was looking to sort of replicate that kind of Pete and Pete, Alex Mack type single camera show on the Disney Channel. And so they took a whole bunch of us over there, and we started to do shows like Even Stevens and, a whole bunch of other Disney stuff. And then they, because there's a certain skill set that went with directing for kids, like how long can they be on the set, and you have to be nice and can't be a jerk. And although sometimes I failed at that, but anyway, none of us are perfect. But anyway, so they said, we want to do these movies, and we want to take somebody who does these single camera, 30-minute shows and do long form. So they gave me that show, Luck of the Irish, that movie. And I did that. And that was, I think, the first big hit that the Disney Channel had, where it was like 6 million viewers. And so I did another one, and here I am, sort of transitioned into, they decided with High School Musical, or they wanted to have more music-driven movies. So I did Jump In, and then Kenny Ortega at the time they tried the Cheetah Girls. I think this was all even before High School Musical. Then they full on did High School Musical. That blew up, and here we are, 20-some years later, doing zombies.
So we have you to thank for a lot of the programming of our childhood then.
When you're tortured by the fact that your child is watching this same show over and over again, it's my fault.
That's wonderful.
Perfect. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, I didn't even realize like Even Stevens and stuff. Like a lot of those TV shows growing up. Love those shows. So didn't realize you got that involved. But how was that transition from doing like a 30-minute show to a full-length movie?
It wasn't that difficult because, the 30-minute, all of those shows were sort of based on the same kind of short film premise where you have setup, and then you have a second act where conflict starts to happen, and then a climax, and then basically everything's resolved. So it's I always say it's like a suffering soul, whoever the lead is in a kid's show, at least of this style. Because before that, the style of children's television was a lot of like, oh, be nice to the person in the wheelchair, or don't be mean. Like there were all these stories that were very, not so much character driven, but sort of superficial on how to be a nice child. And where I think the secret sauce kind of came in was shows where I'm feeling not so secure about who I am as an individual, and so I'm trying to be somebody maybe that I'm not, and then when I actually am who I am, things work out for me, So it's sort of this affirmation of who you are as a person and celebration of whatever makes you unique. And that's basically the theme of several movies that I did. Jump In. Oh, my dad wants me a boxer, but I really love and passionate about jump roping. My dad wants to be a baseball player, but I really am passionate about cooking. It was Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off. And High School Musical, I think, was the same thing. I'm passionate about being in a musical. My dad wants to do basketball. Now we've kind of gotten away from that, but still at the core of it, even the last Zombies movie, she's can I be the leader that I want to be, or do I have to be the leader that my dad wants me to be, right? And I think that's sort of the celebration of that. What I feel like that I leaned into was, as a kid, I wasn't really that comfortable in my skin. I wasn't a jock. I wasn't, a great whatever musician or anything. Of all the things that, my parents kept saying, you're going to get in the movie business. Like, how are you going to make a living? This is ridiculous, but whatever, So, and I think that's sort of a universal thing that kids, feel. They just feel like, okay, who am I and how do I fit into this complicated world? And that's what I try to do. So I guess the long-winded thing to your answer is they are sort of similar in one's just a little bit longer than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that that's incredible too, because there's a lot of like children's TV, especially like a while back. I feel like now they're better with it, but that kind of talked down to the kids. One of the reasons, I always go back to like Scar. I think that Scar was an incredible villain because he used big words. He didn't talk down to the kids.
Right.
And you had to go look those words up and find out what he was saying. And like, like what you're saying, we didn't want to tell people be nice to that kid that is in a wheelchair. That there's going to be a kid maybe in a wheelchair, and that's part of the storyline, but it's not the whole story.
It's not the whole story. Because that's so.
Yeah.
If you don't know how to be nice to everybody, why do you have to be like, don't make fun of that or this? To me, it's like kids are way ahead of that. And I think in fashion as well. And there was a big push when I started, like, oh, it's all got to be pink and blue and primary colors, and I'm like going, I don't know, that's not what they're living, right? They're goth kids and there's cheerleaders and whatever preppy kids, and it's just like they are who they are, and they make their style themselves, right? So I think
Yeah, and every kid on some level feels like they don't fit in. Even like the kid that seems like they have it all together. I think that like that theme of alienation and feeling like you're kind of a freak is like so universal,
right?
That is like a theme that really like speaks to everyone,
right?
Why adults can get into it too, because you're like, you feel that on some level.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Sometimes I'm with an executive at Disney, and they'll say, do you think like a kid is going to think this is cool, like this costume or whatever? And I'm like, well, what do you think? Like, because I basically spent 65 years of my life, like, channeling who I was at 16. And even though my body's like older and, I still feel like I'm still 16, so I'm still 16 inside. And I think for my job is to bring that out and not to assume anything, from especially working with kids. To try to just, channel who I was and who they are, and hopefully we tell a good story, I guess.
Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up, because I think we kind of wanted to talk about the themes, because I think the themes in the Zombies franchise are something that stood out to us of like, this is a fun, kind of musical. It's zombies, it's cheerleaders, it's werewolves, but like there is this like very serious kind of thread of acceptance and kind of inclusion, and to your point, like being yourself, not hiding who you are, learning to trust others just because they look different doesn't necessarily, like, you got to give them a chance. And so it's interesting to hear you talk about that, because we're kind of wondering, like, was that intentional? Was that kind of always the idea? But it sounds like it was. That's something you tried to put into your films.
When I came onto the franchise, the script was pretty much, there's a lot of, it had been shooting with another director for a couple days, and that kind of didn't work out. And then they brought me in, and like there were things that were like, oh, they had a wall, and the wall was around the power plant. And I go, I don't think the wall should be. I think the power plant should be here in this crappy part of town, because we're on the other side of the tracks. So I think at first it started to be more of a Romeo and Juliet kind of story. I think that's what everybody was sort of focusing on. But quickly you saw like, oh, wow, this could really be a story of, accepting people, on the other wall. Let's not build walls. Let's trust the other, and let's not sort of objectify them as the other. And it oddly was timely, I just think it, but I don't think it was ever planned. I think it just sort of, everything sort of bubbled up and at about the same time, the politics of adults and sort of the politics of what we were doing just kind of melded, and you know, and so and I think it worked, and so we, you know, brought in the werewolves, and the werewolves are in, you know, and I think kids, you know, identify, or at least they go, I'm a werewolf, or I'm a zombie, or I'm a this, or I'm an alien. You know what I mean? It's just, it's
there's a kid that wears a foxtail every day at school,
right,
every single day.
yeah. I'm a werewolf, you know, and there are funny things on YouTube of like people reviewing like zombies, and these aren't werewolves, they're just like teens wearing fur, like, you know, like, and he goes on and on about it. But I mean, I don't know, we sort of just invented, you know, we're in a sort of a futuristic, slightly futuristic world, you know, and we've kind of just sort of built our own whatever, you know, folklore around these people. It's a funny thing to work on, because you're really building things out of whole cloth. You know, it's not like we know anything like, what should a zombie look like? What should a werewolf look like? Well, they were behind a wall, so they had light gardens, and they built things out of found items and old things that were cast away, and that's their culture, you know. And we also try to be respectful of the culture. Like, for example, a little thing is, you know, we were doing werewolves, and they're moving into Seabrook, and I go, okay, and the production designer had done some kind of thatch roof house that looked like, you know, something from medieval time. I go, I think they have cell phones, for God's sakes. We have to figure out a style of house that they live in, that they're not living in the cave on a stone, you know, bench. So
Yeah.
it's all, but it's fun that way, I think.
A lot of really interesting, like, cool world building that you guys did.
Yeah. It's super, it's fun, and it's all thought out, and there's language, each, you know, I don't know how many people know these things, but if there's symbolism in the first movie where we have the zombies, and, you know, they have a language and they have an alphabet. So when you see the kids wearing costumes with symbols on them, they're really like, they actually say something, you know, and so, you know, that's never really released anywhere, and some sleuth might have to figure that out someday. The book of zombies, you know.
That was going to kind of be one of my questions, of how much everything was kind of planned out. Like, how much of that initial trilogy was kind of planned out? Like, did you always know you were going to go to werewolves? Did you know Addison was going to be an alien? Like, how much of that was kind of just on the fly, movie to movie, or
I think it was just
beginning?
movie. I think it was.
Okay.
It was movie to movie. I don't know that they haven't thought that it would go. There would be a Zombies 2, you know, and or 3, and I thought Zombies 3, frankly, was going to be the last one, and then all of a sudden I got this phone call that, yeah, we want to do Zombies 4, and I'm like, okay, like, you know, I was completely shocked. As I am now that we're working on Zombies 5, so, you know, it's like,
okay, all right.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
All right, well, I was going to ask about that. We'll get to that in a little bit. Kind of going off of that, we did ask, like, listeners for some questions, and a big question, and I think maybe the answer is it was just kind of movie to movie. A lot of the listeners pointed out, you know, Addison's hair, color, her style, it changes pretty dramatically,
right,
from movie to movie. Is there any symbolism to that, or is it just kind of like, hey, another movie, change up the hairstyle?
Yep. Yeah, and like particularly with like the blue, like she has full blue hair, and then it's like blue underneath. So yeah, like, what is the symbolism there?
To be honest with you, it's just slightly a struggle, because, you know, at first she had this white hair, which was that bob, which everybody's looked like, oh God, it looks like she went to the store and got like a plastic wig, and it just doesn't look like real hair, and, you know, and so then we tried to do something that was a little bit more real, and so then it became more like, you know, that gray kind of a hair, and then everybody thought it's like this doesn't look, it's kind of like, we don't like that either. It's just like she's like an old woman. And then so let's go back to this stuff. And then I think when she became an alien, the idea was, you know, that she's half alien, which wasn't even really figured out. Like the writers just came up with that. Like I think at the end of Zombie 2, a meteor comes down and her hair sparkles, and what does that mean? You know, like, nobody did anything. So then now suddenly it's okay. It's half blue. She's half blue and half white hair, and you know, at the end of Zombies 1, the mom pulls off. There was a whole big scene where the mom pulls off her wig, and she also has white hair, right? But we cut that out. You know, and so when they're coming back to, you know, for the big block party, and the wall is separated, and they're coming back down from Seabrook, and they're all having this big party, she actually had white hair, and we were like, we had to like go back and digitally put her hair back into, you know, her normal hair color, and you know, finally, you know, we revealed it in that crazy way in Zombies 3, but yeah. So anyway, we're just trying to, honestly, just try to figure out the thing that works the best, you know. So, and now she's half alien and half human, so that's where the two color hair like comes into play.
Yeah. Half cheerleader.
Yeah.
Half cheerleader, right.
Our favorite line in Zombies 4 is when I think she's with the Daywalkers see her and they ask her if she's a vampire, and she goes, "No, I'm not a vampire. I'm a cheerleader."
Right.
That's like the best line. We joke like everything is possible through cheer. So.
Right. Yeah. You mean your favorite line isn't "step away from the fruit"? That's it.
We also like, yeah. We like. Oh, I don't remember that one. I remember, yeah. What is it? Started on another planet. Look where we at now. That's also another one of our. Yeah.
Want to kind of go back a little bit to kind of the beginning, the start, like the first Zombies. You know, you mentioned High School Musical, kind of talked about Disney's evolution of doing these like musical movies. You had Descendants; those both predated Zombies. How much of kind of their success influenced Zombies, and like how much did you try to differentiate Zombies? So hey, it's a similar style in that it's a musical movie, but you know, we kind of have to make our own kind of path here.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure we did that, and I think I do that like all the time. You know, where like Zombies 4 is a camp movie, and I go, well, we're not going to do. You know, I specifically had these conversations. It can't look like Bunked, and it can't look like Camp Rock, right? So, you know, because it. You know, there was at a point where they're making lanyards and doing tug of war things, you know, and that's where I kind of came up with the idea, like, okay, if this is a Seeds of Peace camp, then where two sides are getting to know each other, then they have to bring their own interpretation on, like, the games have to be about phases of the moon or the colors of the order or the colors of the rainbow, you know. So me personally working is I'm always trying to differentiate from Cheetah Girls to, you know, to Camp Rock because they're all their own little brands. And why do you want to watch the same thing over and over again? You know, so I think, and it all comes from story really first, you know, and what's the story and where's the location and why is this, you know, interesting for kids. The other aspect for me is I liked my dad, you know, read Tom Sawyer to me when I was little. And to me, I just like this idea of like the kid off on the adventure and, you know, pretending he's dead or putting a raft together and floating down the river. You know, to me, that's just the coolest thing ever. And so if I can get kids into these adventure situations, or like Fish Out of Water, where they're, you know, in a different city or a different place, speaks to me as a kid who wants to make a raft and sail down a river. And I kind of think that's what kids like too.
So, what was the process of like finding your cast and did you have other choices between Milo and Meg?
Well, I wasn't in the casting
Okay.
for Milo and Meg at the very beginning. That was another director. The way it works in the other movies, there's casting directors who look at a ton of tapes. And for whatever reason, my Instagram seems to have been blown up or even my email by kids who want to be in the next Zombies. It's like sort of gotten like a little out of control.
Well, if you need any adult extras,
yeah,
you have to be in the
you'll have to
background.
come to New Zealand.
That's the problem.
That is not tempting.
We've been
That is
before,
so
so-
tempting. That is so tempting.
So anyway, so they sift through a lot of tapes, and I look through a lot of people, and they have to be able to sing, dance, and act, which is not the easiest thing to find people who can do all three of those things.
No.
And there's other things to consider, like especially if somebody has a social media following, they're kind of interested in that because that brings people to the movie. It's harder nowadays to get kids because there used to be a time when that all you had was Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel, and now everybody's like on TikTok and Instagram.
Right.
So there's that process first, and then they weed through all of these tapes and say yes or no to a whole bunch of myriad, like hundreds of people. And then I get a series of tapes or links of different people, and I watch them, and then I kind of make a further like cut. And then I sort of present there's Mark and Jane, who are the executive producers. We're all sort of saying, did you see this person? Did you see that person? And then we have a couple network sessions where we bring those people in, and they usually read and act and sing. And then it's a process of just whittling it down. And, with the aliens, and I think starting with the aliens, we have Meg and Milo reading with them. And then Meg and Milo start to say, I can imagine them being in our family, and we really love this person. I've done like a lot of kids things or young adult stuff. And this cast particularly they're all super close. And it's like a family, I can't really describe why it's like that or how it happened, but somehow the magic sort of happened. And I mean, they're all friends. They all love each other. They went through the pandemic together where they were sequestered in hotel rooms and could only be on set for a few minutes and back and forth. And they all went to New Zealand, and Meg and Milo welcomed, really was sort of a handoff to the younger kids now. Mm-hmm. So there's just, you sort of know it when you see it with this cast, and it's not just how talented they are as performers, it's also how they vibe with the whole franchise. So I don't know. I hope to nurture the magic, and the magic sort of happens somehow.
That really interesting. I mean, kind of good insight. How long is that whole process? Like, to cast, to film, like kind of what, from kind of beginning, hey, we're going to make a zombies movie to kind of finishing it. Like, what does that look like?
Oh God, it starts, well, I think it's a kind of a 2-year process. So the new movie comes out, and basically no one has thought about anything about the next one. And then depending on how the last one does, like I said, I think everybody thought that Zombies 3 was the end. And then it did such a big number for Disney Plus that we're going to do it again. And I think really that's what's happened every single time with this franchise. The first one, my son, who was very young and a boy, saw all that pink and blue and the dancing and singing and kind of put his hoodie over his head, and I think he said to me, "Dad, you got to take your name off of this movie," even though he denies that he said it. I said, "Oh, man, he really, you don't like this movie?"
Oh my gosh. That's
You
funny.
know, but so, you know, you just never really know. And then you go through testing, and then the audience likes it, and all of a sudden it's this, you know, big hit that does repeated. And then we did, okay, we're going to do Zombies 2. And that was a even bigger hit. And so, you know, and now we're finishing Zombies 3, and the aliens that you're all upset was, you know, oh my God, we love the aliens. I'm like,
Yep.
God. So, you know, and here we are doing 4. So once the movie airs and there's some audience response to it, and they know, like, wow, this thing still has legs, then we come back, and the writers come back and, you know, pitch an idea, and you know, and do a first draft, and then I look at the draft, and well, what if we did it like this? And, you know, like I said, it was, this last 4 was just this, I mean, there were, the day people were like acrobatic rainbow people, you know, so it like, it sort of changes, you know, so it's where it's a big, huge collaboration, and we start to build the world, and then we bring in a production designer and a costume designer, and they start talking about, well, what would daywalkers look like, and you know, what would vampires look like? I mean, it used to be the night daywalkers and the night walkers, but that had bad connotations, so we went to vampires.
Yeah.
But you know, they were, and then we tried at some point. We had tried at some point to see what if they're day vampires, what would day vampires look like? So it's a huge. So by the time we get to the script, which it goes through 5 or 6 drafts, it's almost like a year. And now when they go, okay, it's greenlit, which we're, you know, we have now a draft and we're working on. And now when that, you know, just recently they go, okay, well, we'll start hiring production designers and a costume designers and some casting people to look at who the new characters are. And so that's just starting up. But we won't, you know, once, for example, like I think the last one, and I think this one will be the same thing. Like once the New Year's start, like probably in December, we'll start doing some locations, and then we'll fly to Auckland, and then we're there for prepping for maybe two months where they're building sets and stuff like that. And then 38 days, 35 days, 38, 39 days later of shooting, we're done. And then there's 6 months of post.
Wow.
Where it's editing. And then there's, I think, almost another 6 months of, you know, visual effects that I sit every morning with my coffee every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And they're saying, here's this shot. What do you think? And then we try to do all the effects. And then finally after that, it's the mix. So what the composer writes music, and, you know, so there's, you know, all, and in there in the rehearsals is rehearsal for choreography and dance and all that stuff, right? So
That's what I was going to ask. Where do the songs and like the choreography and stuff come in?
So the songs, when the movie is greenlit and the script is to a point, the script has no music in it and no lyrics and nothing. It is just like 105-page script that is just scenes. There's nobody talks about singing. Nobody says, oh, this will be a dance number. Wow. And then I work with Steve Vincent, who's done tons of these things, who works at the channel, or works at Disney Plus. And we lay out areas together, like, well, this scene at the beginning, this could be a song. Like, his idea was to do Alien Invasion, like when they're coming down and they're blowing up. Let's do a big musical number where laser beams or cars are blowing up. And I'm like, okay, I'm game, but that's a big thing. Like, that thing took us 2 weeks to shoot.
Wow.
So it was all night, and it was a big, huge thing. So anyway, he blocks out what it is. He gives those pages to the songwriters. So he'll choose like, oh, if it's a rap style song, then he'll give it to people who are specialized in that. And there'll be like a couple of them, like 3 people will write a song using those script pages for that place. And then we'll get that song back. All the songs come in before we leave and audition, before we leave and start rehearsing. And we all listen to them, the executive producers, the Disney people, and listen to the 3 different songs of like, there were 3 different versions of Alien Invasion.
Okay.
They still exist somewhere in demo. And then we all agree like, okay, this is the one, And then once the song is picked, then I go through into the script and I put it in the script and I give like a generic idea of what the staging might be. For example, like it's an alien invasion. Well, there's going to be a big explosion here, right? Because that's where it feels like it. So a car will explode. We'll have 3 cars exploding. We'll have this is where the ground will open up. And, it's all kind of, once you hear the song, you sort of can see it. Mm-hmm. So I will do that, and then I will give that rough breakdown to the choreographer, who also will have ideas, and then he'll go in and workshop with a small group of people before, and then he casts a bunch of dancers, and then we go in, and it's like 4 weeks of rehearsal where he teaches every single number to the cast and the group of dancers. And it's good for me. I like it in the end because I don't have to tell anybody where to go or do anything. It's just, oh, okay, let me see it. Perfect. The camera goes here, right? It's a little. So
we like the fact that in Alien Invasion they come out. Then when they come down, they're like the Jabberwockies a little bit.
Yeah, that was.
They have like a completely
really cool.
different
he
style.
Did that really weird formation. That's all. I'm just saying, here's where they're going to come down. Here's the section of the song, and then he'll take it. And sometimes he'll have, questions. I think on Alien Invasion, it was so complicated that I had a little model of the town, and I was like, okay, they're going to sing here, and then we're going to do this reveal, where the ground falls in. And of course, the ground doesn't fall in. It was already fallen in. They're just singing on a little piece of... And then we fill up the street, right? And then when it's time for them to leave, we just start, it's a cover to reveal, it's called.
I find it fascinating. You said you're filming for like a month.
Yeah.
And that's it. That seems so incredibly fast.
Well, it's 38 days, but remember, it's not 38. It's not 38 consecutive days. It's 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. So it ends up being like 2 months.
But you're like a magician because we were extras in what was the last not the last, but the Dark Knight, The Dark Knight Rises. We were in the stadium scene,
right?
Okay, and we were there. First of all, it was like 90 degrees, and we were wearing winter coats, so it was miserable. We like threw away our coats after, but we were there all day long, and that ended up being I don't know.
I think it was like 5 seconds.
Yeah, like 5 second part of it. You can see Joe in there, but you can't see me at all. I'm still bitter about it. That was years ago, but yeah, like so, like the fact that you were able to in that amount of time film that, and then again you have choreography going on. It's not like you're doing like really simple stuff. The fact that you could do that, you're like a magician.
Well, and
I'm convinced,
and I think that's why I've survived so long, because you have to really come in and know exactly what you're going to do, and there's no like if you're going then your day's wasted, and you can't you have to it used to be back in the day it was like 5 pages, you shot 5 pages a day, and maybe it was 6 if it was a tough day. Now it's a little bit more reasonable. I like to be around 4 pages a day. But it's also figuring out, for example, Freya, I think at the time was 14 years old on this last thing. And her work hours follow where she's from. So she was from England, and she could only be on the set, like working on the set for like 4 hours. It was like some really ridiculous amount of time. So it was, and that includes getting made up and getting your clothes, undone with your makeup and hair and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm not a big, huge fan of, I like to figure out how to do it without having a double, but a lot of stuff was just this double that we had that just showed up and every morning got into makeup. And anytime I would block it, it was all like strategically done so that, okay, if she's going to be dancing here, but right now we're going to be over the dance battle. We're going to be the backs of the daywalkers, and we'll have her double dancing, and then we'll shoot out all of Malachi's stuff, and then we'll turn around, and now she comes in, and we shoot all her stuff, right? So it's all very mathematically figured out beforehand. And I have good ADs who say you're never going to make it, and what are we going to do? And sometimes we need more days, but we usually need more days only when we're prepping. And once we've decided how much it's going to be and what we're going to do, then you pretty much just have to stick to it. And otherwise, it's a lot of money. That's, and I don't think I'd be asked back if I did. Truthfully.
Do you have a favorite scene or musical number that you've directed up to this point?
I don't know. I can't say that really I do. I saw the touring show and, of the Descendants zombies thing. And they did so many, they did Flesh and Bone, for example. And I was like, oh, wow, I totally forgot about this musical number. It was playing in the background, So it's like, to me, I try to do the best I can. I loved in this last one, I loved Megan Milo's little tap dancing number that they did on top of the hill,
It was.
Sometimes things that work, I try to put in. I love Bam, that was Chris Scott who did that one. And I mean, I was pretty much putting out a lot of fires in Zombies 1, so it wasn't, I couldn't really appreciate it so much, when things were happening. There was a lot of drama, but they're all like sort of special. And I think if I like the song, then I really enjoy shooting the musical number. I really like, like this one thing with, I don't know if it's in 2, where Zed's singing and walking down the street and everybody stops for a second. And it's just little teeny things I find like, oh, that's cool. I like the arrows when they're singing and ducking. So it's, I like this one in Cheetah Girls that I like where they were in a swan boat on this, weird thing in India and this. So I don't know. They're all have their special moments, and I think some things I try to fix. Sometimes I'm looking at it going, hey. I think the things that I don't like the most are when you put somebody on stage and they just perform on stage. I think that's really what I've learned in my old age, is not to do that anymore. Because it's just, no matter what, you can have fireworks or explosions. It's still people standing on stage holding a guitar singing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
So we love the little nod to Hamilton that you have in there with Eliza and her lyrics, and there's that lyrics in the song. And then we also were reading that there are nods to Bring It On and Grease. Are there any other cool references that people haven't found yet that maybe?
Oh, that are that.
To other things, yeah.
Well, when they sang Someday at the prom, it's pretty much that West Side Story thing where where in the movie, Maria and Tony meet at the thing and everybody disappears and goes out of focus. So we've done that. I mean, I'm sure there are, because I know that when I watch musicals that I haven't directed, I go, oh, I got to remember that and use that,
So. That's perfect.
I was gonna say, kind of speaking of some of the Easter eggs and theories and stuff. I got a couple I want to run past you here. So, one of them, and so we binge watched like all 4 of them in a weekend. So
we were like, we'll try this, we'll watch one
Yeah.
and then it'll be fine. And then we watched one. We were like, oh my gosh, we are so in. We were texting our friends and we're like, you've been telling us to watch this. And wow. And they're like, yeah, they're great, aren't they? I'm like, yes.
But one thing we noticed, and I noticed maybe in particular, is each movie, all of the zombies, but like, Zed in particular, he looks more human. Like he's very white, green hair in the first movie, and I feel like he gets more human. Eliza does make kind of like a throwaway reference, I feel like, might be in Zombies 2, of like the zombies are evolving, they may not need Z-bands anymore. Is that kind of a conscious link there? Am I reading too much into this?
No, I mean, I think, I think it was just that we needed to figure out, how their superpower, like mostly everybody else has this thing with their moonstones, and their superpower like just comes from channeling the energy of their moonstones, right? And they turn into vampires or zombies or daywalkers who have fire, right? But the original zombies, they were just like, oh, if we just have this Z band, it just keeps us from zombieing out, so that we're just like normal people. But you realize that their superpower had to be, swipe left or swipe right. So I think it was just saying, okay, if we move forward in this franchise, how are we going to deal with them with their superpower, which is being a zombie, right? And so I think it's like, well, we're evolving. It's just a way to like type it in so that it lets the writers off the hook when they decide, And as far as the white goes, I don't think any of that is intentional. I think we have the formula for the color of the hair. He always dyes his hair the same. It's they're airbrushed with the same kind of paint. Sometimes he's dancing so hard that he's sweating and the makeup runs off.
Okay.
And and then they're running in and trying to do something, because obviously because of the time you can't send him back to the tent and get him re-spray painted again. So
interesting.
So, or he'll just have fans around him, like he's holding fans to try to every time a butt of
Oh my
sweat
gosh,
comes
that's
up,
so funny.
Yeah,
his hair looks so much like greener in the first couple, and then it kind of like fades to more of like a, I don't know, aqua. It looks like. That's interesting. That it's the same.
We definitely try to keep it exactly the same, but it's different people every single time who are actually doing it. I mean, this last time we're in New Zealand, and
I think that a lot of the lighting, like I feel like the first couple, I feel like had a few more like darker scenes, and then with like the bright light, I think it maybe like lit up the hair a little differently too.
Right. Exactly. I think that's all. It's just all like we try to do the best we can, and I'm not, now that you say all these things, I'm like, I keep thinking to myself, oh God, in color timing, I should have really like gone through and really checked out his hair a little bit more. To me, I'm just like, whatever.
No,
I think you go with it. Yeah.
I'm over here just thinking there's a secret hidden story.
Yeah, there's a storyline.
Become human in the
it's
next
all
one,
it's all part of it. You did that on purpose.
We can't do that because he is who he is, right? Like,
true.
That's true. That is true.
Very true. So another, and this is kind of like a rabbit hole I jumped down. But the Seabrook mascot, the mighty shrimp I have here.
Yes.
I read somewhere that there is a theory that he's not a person in a shrimp costume, that he's actually a sentient shrimp going to school. Is that true?
I was gonna say, I don't think it was. I think it was, according to Meg. I think Meg and Milo, you have a whole thing written out. You're very intense.
Well, yeah.
About
I mean, I don't know that I have a whole thing written, but I like it's when he's out there, that shrimp doing his thing. He just makes me laugh more than anything. Like, it's just so funny. And the guy who played the shrimp for the first 3 movies, we got somebody else in the 4th movie, but he would just crack me up. He would do things like, oh my God, the werewolves are here. And then his eyes, he'd cover his eyes, or I'd be yelling at him to do something, put your arm around Ely, because I had a whole love story going on. But they didn't want to put him in the the Mountain College because they thought like, why is he in Mountain College? He's the Seabrook mascot. And I go, I don't think kids think of him like a mascot, like there's another person inside of him. I think it's like when you go to Disneyland and you see Mickey Mouse, the kids aren't like going, oh, I'm hugging the guy inside the Mickey Mouse suit, right? It's actually Mickey Mouse that they're hugging, you know. And so I said, I'm trying to convince them, of course, because I want Shrimpy to be at Mountain College, you know, with a Mountain College sweatshirt, because it was just cracking me up that he would have a hoodie, that we get to make a giant hoodie for a shrimp and put him in college. So,
well, I'll tell you, it really changes the viewings of the movies. Thinking of them as a actual shrimp.
But,
exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Do you think? I don't think any kid is going like, I wonder who the guy is that plays the shrimp. No, he's just Shrimpy. He's a real shrimp. Who knows where he came from? Maybe we'll find out in one of these movies.
There could be shrimp people. That could be Zombie 6. It's like, hey,
yes,
the
shrimp people.
Yeah. I like pitch plenty of ideas, like, you know, when they're through the woods and they're scared, and how can we get Shrimpy in the movie? And there's Ely and Shrimpy like toasting giant marshmallows by a fire with their big tent because they decided to go on camping vacation together. So I don't know. To me, it's just the only thing that gives me joy. Shrimpy just really gives me joy. And you know, I saw at the, you know, there he is at the concert. They brought him out. You know, Shrimpy.
Yep.
So I'm like,
yep. And why are they called Seabrook when they're nowhere near the sea?
Well, they are at the sea, right?
Are they?
Yeah, there's that lake in Toronto. We're claiming that they're the sea, that it's the sea.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that they're not we shot in Toronto, so, you know. But Mark Hoffling, you know, he's the leader of he's the brilliant mind behind, you know, the mascot and his little sketch of the mascot. And, you know, why don't we have a mascot at Seabrook? Why don't the Mighty Shrimp, you know, they were looking for something funny that sort of like a dichotomy, Mighty Shrimp.
Another question kind of from our listeners, kind of going off a Seabrook and things. In your mind, are there other cities that similar things are happening, like the Moonstone, where there's zombies and werewolves, or is this just kind of only happening in Seabrook? I guess we got a little bit with Zombies 4, but like, is the thought like, hey, this is a common thing across kind of this universe?
No, I think it's I always thought that it just happened at this city that had this you know, that had this accident, because all in the cheerleading, you know, people, all of the other things are like the Eels or the Mariners. Like if you look at those other cheer teams, when we did more of the cheer stuff, they're all from different cities, but they're all just people, you know what I mean? Like, so I don't think there's zombies in their cities. It just happened to be here where this, you know, the green cola hit the thing and, you know, it blew up the plant.
Created the zombies.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Were there any like storylines or characters that you wanted to include but got cut for some reason?
Not so much characters, but you know, there's scenes that don't make it that we shoot sometimes, and we go, oh, we don't really need this scene. And there's a huge scene at the end of Zombies 1 where everybody in the audience stands up, and I'm scared of swimming, so I wear my pool noodle in the bathtub, you know. And they all like said their thing, and that's where Mom took off her wig, and you know, and it just went on and on and on. And every single time I tried to write it smaller, the writers came back and made it even bigger, and you know, so that all got like cut out. And you know, things haven't. I don't think we've ever had a character in the movie that actually acted and then we lost. I don't think that's ever happened. Sometimes in these musicals, there's even a song that happens, and they, you know, it used to be Gary. No, we're gonna cut it out. What? My God, we spent so long on this stuff. But that
So
hasn't.
are there songs?
Yeah,
Are there songs out
isn't
there
there
that
the
are
one
cut?
with the ladies? There's like a ladies song. I can't remember what it was called.
That was cut. That's right. That song
Yeah.
was cut. It was yeah,
I'm
it
trying
was
to
a
think of what it
song
was.
in Zombies 3 that was all of the girls all sang the song.
Mm-hmm.
And Meg's song, which you see at the end of it, you know, there was of Zombies 4, there was a whole other pitch of another gauntlet kind of game that I had pitched, super complicated. And I think after I pitched it to the channel, you know, it involved being up on wires and staying away from direct sunlight. And, you know, because that at first we the concept why we're sort of in the volcano was that they both get out of their worlds through these tunnels, and then they're in a shaded place where there's never any direct sunlight. So that's how the vampires can live in the day, and that's how the zombies can live in the night. And I, you know, I was all on board with this. It made total logic sense to me. But the DP kind of was like, well, what if there's this hard light? How I can't, like, I'm out in the middle of the ocean. Like, how can I get rid of it all? So everybody got cold feet, and then we just decided that Bubble World came back in, and that they could actually live in the day and in the night. It also becomes incredibly difficult to decide a passage of time. I was like really worried, like, oh, here we are at the beginning, and then we're in the day world, and then now it feels like it's night, so time has passed, but really it's taking place at the same time. And
right.
So it's that whole idea. It was like one of those things that it always looks really good on paper, and then you try to do it, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? You know.
Well, we got to ask about Zombies 5. You've already kind of mentioned it is in the works.
Is it mermaids?
I was going to say, so where do you see the franchise going? Can you give us kind of any teases on
I don't know that I can really, other than we're like trying to make it happen. I can't even say if it's going to happen or not, or if it's even going to be, you know, greenlit, but you know, it's going to have something to do with that giant water spout. So you guys can, but I would be fired if I started saying, oh, it's going to be this, or it's going to be
No,
that.
We definitely don't want that. So,
but I do like, I mean, I can say that I like where we sort of went with, you know, the adventure sort of framework of the story as opposed to, you know, the high school thing. So hopefully we can stick with that. Yeah. And then who knows, maybe there'll be even a Zombie 6.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Maybe, you know, not necessarily talking specifics on 5, but like, how long do you think this franchise can run? Like, in your mind?
Well, I didn't think I was going to do 2. So
right.
I really am not trying to, like, but it just surprises me. I mean, as long as people still love it. I mean, I'm literally shocked that 4, I mean, I was really worried about 4 not doing that well. And it just completely, like, people seem to totally respond to it. And it's really a difficult thing. I mean, Meg and Milo are absolutely tremendous. I mean, I just think I'm so lucky to have worked with them, and they've grown so much throughout those first 3 and this 4th franchise, right? And now all of a sudden we're trying to, like, it's asking a lot to say, okay, Malachi, you're going to be the new Milo, and Freya, you're going to be the new Meg. And, you know, the fact that they are so loved and people love them and they love their relationship. And, you know, I think I wanted 4 to be simpler and a little bit less bombs and aliens and arrows being shot at people, and, you know, and trying to, like, just because I really wanted us to like meet those 2 people. And I think that was a little bit of a risky thing, but I think it was the right thing to do. And I think we created something with them that they, you know, so to me, that's just a miracle in itself. To try to, like, catch fire in a bottle twice is, you know, so I don't know why it can't go till 6.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like it's gaining momentum. You mentioned the touring show with Descendants, the crossover. Yeah, it just seems like, hey, like, that's brand new.
Why
like,
not?
It doesn't sound like a franchise that's slowing down if you're starting.
Oh, right, I know. I'm surprised. I'm pleased too. Like, you know. Yeah. But anyway, you know, I always say, like, my career is like my mom used to always go, I would do one movie and she would go, "Whoa, you know, where are you gonna, like, what are you gonna do after Let It Shine?" I go, "I don't know, Mom. I'm like 55. I'll figure it out. There'll be another movie, or maybe not, or whatever. And I sort of feel like the same thing, that if I just come to it and I really am passionate about what I do and try to make it the best that I can, then who knows? There'll be a 6, maybe there'll be a 7. I don't know. Like,
It shines
I'm gonna
through.
be like in a wheelchair probably.
Well, we're here for
You
all
can
of
actually
them,
be
so
one of the zombies.
Right, exactly.
You keep making them, we'll keep watching them. So.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, and I appreciate what I love about the franchise also is that we just don't take ourselves that seriously. We like have fun, and we want to be entertaining, and we want to do a good job, and we want to have a good message, but we're not trying to be, we just want to make people smile and make people love each other and get along and tear down walls, really, is just, and not build walls, right? That's basically it.
Well, Paul, this has been
Yes.
wonderful. Again, really appreciate you being on, and looking forward to, no, not officially confirmed, but I'm holding out hope. Looking forward to Zombies 5. So.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay, again, want to thank Paul. It was amazing. Again, it's just
It was.
so kind to have the interview with us. I can't believe it happened. So if you still haven't watched the Zombies franchise, you got to be hyped now.
Right.
Go
Exactly.
watch it.
If you don't watch it for anything else, watch it for Shrimpy.
Yes. But let us know in the comments, like, what is your favorite of the 4 Zombies movies? We want to know. Let us know in the comments which one's your favorite.
Absolutely.
And why is
there
it number
is
3?
I think I was gonna say there is a correct answer there.
So, but that wraps up the show this week. Want to thank everybody again for listening. If you've not done so, please leave us a rating or a review. Subscribe wherever you get your podcast. It really helps, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you for lending us your ears.
Have a great week, everybody. We'll see you here next Monday.
Bye bye.